Welcome to the first meeting of 2020. Thank you all for being here. Just looking forward to 2020. We've got some really good technical committees. The program committee is really putting together some good stuff, so be on the lookout for the rest of the year. And today, and I know Matt Glasser is going to be our moderator and get to kind of come up and introduce, but today we're going to get to hear from a scholarship recipient, which will be wonderful. We'll also get to hear from what's going on here at Georgia Tech with the professors here and some of the things they're doing around the metro Atlanta area. I think specifically this with Gwinnett County. And then we'll also get to hear from the Georgia Tech ITS president, Ryan, so looking forward to that. Always love to help our student section here and bringing people in, speaking to them, kind of listening to what they're looking for and helping them out, our ITS Georgia members. Couple of announcements. We are going to, with this being the first meeting, we do have a lot of committees and with people, and we love volunteers. So if you are interested in volunteering and being a little bit more involved with ITS Georgia, actually, whoever's on the board, would you please stand up, because these are the people you can actually reach out to. So all the board members, please stand up. Yes. They spend a lot of time volunteering, so please reach out to them if you are interested in helping out. We can talk to you about different committees and maybe what your interest would be. The other thing, little cleanup item, is we do have memberships dues right now. Next month, if your organization has not paid their dues, you will be a non-member and pay that fee. So, and we are our membership's done by the organization, so I know that may not be you individually that pays that due, maybe someone within your organization. If you are wondering if y'all need to make sure that that's all tidied up, we do have a membership or committee, and that is basically you can check in with Brooke Martin, you can check in with Stephen Sheffield, you can check in with me, Bill Wells, or even just contact ITS Georgia committee themselves. But next month you will be a non-member. Your organization's picture will be taken off pretty much after this meeting, so that's another way you can find out. But we do want you to be a member and be a part of this organization, and we do appreciate that. We have Rachel Cohen, who needs to talk to us about some networking and some fun stuff to get together.
Hey everyone, we have our first social event tomorrow night at the Wing Factory in Smyrna. It is still open to register. Come out and help us win trivia and have some wings. Next month we'll be sending out an invite. We're going to do a Friday meetup at a brewery, and then we're looking at some other fun activities for the rest of the year. So be on the lookout for that.
All right, and Dino, where's Dino? Dino back here. He and Jacob, so I want to give a shout out to them. They're putting together our annual meeting at Jekyll Island, so I'm going to let him speak on that.
So we're excited about sharing it this year. It'll be from September 27th to the 29th. I'll ask my committee chairs to stand up if they're here. I got Rachel Cohen, she's my everything committee chair.
All of our everything.
I have Whitney. Is Whitney here?
She had to leave.
Whitney Nowledge is the technical chair. I have sponsorship chair. One of them's here. Co-chair Mike Hope is over there. Scott Moore. I have an AV chair, Ken Keenum. He's with Gwinnett County. He heads that up. Registration is Holly. Kramer, she's not here. I know we've received a lot of emails for volunteering. I've passed all y'all's names on to them. If they need you, they will contact you. And maybe they have already. We even have a golf chair. We've been playing golf this year down in Jekyll Island. Jeff Legg is our golf chair for that. So we're all excited. Real quick, there'll be more information coming down the road. Thank y'all very much.
All right, and the date for that it's at Jekyll Island, September 27th to 29th. So please get that on your calendar. Also, there's abstracts due this Friday. So if you are interested in presenting or know a good person to present or a topic, please send in that abstract by this Friday so that we can get that hopefully on this annual meeting, agenda and everything, because they will be pulling the agenda together very quickly so that you all will know what to expect, so you can sign up for that meeting. Just a couple of things before I call up our sponsor for this meeting, but a couple of on the schedule things to look at. We got the social on Thursday, tomorrow night. Please register. Please come out. Enjoy the networking and such that Rachel puts together, a nice little venue for everyone to come together, do some trivia and everything. Georgia Engineering Awards is on Saturday, 3/14. That is ACEC. I think they just actually submitted or just presented who will get awards at that, so might want to take a look at that. Our next meeting is actually going to be, and I'll come back and do this at the end, but our next meeting is Wednesday, 3/25, and it will be up at the Peachtree Corners Curiosity Lab. So that's going to be a really cool monthly meeting to listen in on and see what they have going on there. Connect ATL, just kind of a shout out for them, is on 3/31, something to look out. And somebody mentioned too, there's an ITS Carolina meeting that's coming up. So any of you who may cross the state lines a little bit, that is March 24th and 25th in Concord, North Carolina. So I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to that. And with that, I would like to welcome our sponsor. We could not do this, guys, without our sponsor, 360NS, and Billy's going to come up and just speak to you. But again, we cannot have these meetings and justify it without the sponsorship's help. So here's Billy.
Thank you. I got the mic here. I got my own mic. Thank you all. I'll be brief. I just wanted to say thank you. We're a proud member of a great organization, ITS Georgia, and I think we love sponsoring this particular event and to kick off 2020. It's going to be a great year. It's an exciting time in our industry, and I encourage everyone here to get more involved with the organization. It's a growing organization. It's an exciting time. So reach out to other people inside your organizations, public, private. Invite someone next month to the meeting, and we look forward to a great year, and we're excited to be here and participate. So thank you very much.
Please give Billy a round of applause, guys. And thank him for this wonderful lunch. With that, I'm going to bring up Matt Glasser. He's on the ITS Georgia board. He's also works for GDOT, so I'm going to let him come up and start introducing our speakers and such. I was told you put it really close to your mouth and it might actually work.
Does it work? Yeah. No, it doesn't work. No.
Yeah, I hear you.
Did it?
Yeah,
I feel like you guys are teasing me.
no, I hear you.
Just to have it right here in my face. All right. So hi, I'm Matt Glasser. I work for the Georgia Department of Transportation. Before we get into our speakers today, I did want to do a quick announcement for the group that does the scholarships, of which we'll have one of our scholarship speakers come up. We are doing a little bit of an adjustment this year, and we are asking for everyone in ITS Georgia's input. We will be sending out a survey later this afternoon to basically just get your input. Where are you as a company or as an individual hiring manager or just as just a part of a team? Where are you struggling to, when new engineers or new technicians or new anyone's coming in, what's kind of been your pain point? And that way we can refocus our efforts as an agency and as an organization to help all the people that are in this room better recruit, better retain the staff that you have. So with that, let me introduce our first speaker today. Our first speaker is Daisy Dye. She is a second-year master's student majoring in Transportation Systems Engineering at the Georgia Institute of Technology, right here. She graduated from Bihang University for undergraduate study, where her research covered the area of optimization of intelligent transportation systems, specifically under a connected vehicle driving environment. For those of you that did not do such incredible research at school, I was one of them. She should feel kind of embarrassed right now. With that, her current research interests lie in applying machine learning techniques based on statistical learning theory to big data analytics and systems optimization in transportation systems so as to better combine the theoretical study with real-world practice. Again, feel embarrassed about what you are doing or not doing right now. She has several publications in both journals and conferences. Please join me in welcoming Daisy.
Hi everyone, I'm Daisy, and here is just a little bit short talk on my proposals to solve those curbside congestion crisis. So we all know that with some thriving of e-commerce and also like developments of various transportation modes, such as like scooters and smart parking meters and also some charging ports and docking stations, the curbside is becoming like more and more congested. So I believe that a better management of curbside use could be used to solve those congestions and allow for more efficient traffic flow for both like vehicles and also transit and the public. So when I'm doing such kind of like research, like existing solutions in other cities, I found that like San Francisco and New York, they are adopting strategy of like congestion pricing and charging more to use streets at the busiest time. And for Washington D.C., they are like developing a database to inventory all the curbside so that they can better manage it. So the solution I'm proposing today is that a comprehensive dynamic management of curbside use with the support of advanced information technologies. So there are specifically 4 solutions to this. The first one is that we shall digitally map and inventory all the existing curbsides and the loading zones to build a database. So I believe that local government and agencies could collaborate with collaborative platforms or third-party data vendors to use some crowdsourced, privately provided or collected data to build a very comprehensive database to inventory all the existing curbside assets to conduct better data management. Because we know that right now in our information era, a good data management is like a premise to all the things. So the second one is that we can set up flex zones curbside. So instead of like designating just fixed use of all the curbside, we can try to build a flex zone along the curbside. So those functions could contain like passenger loading zones, combined commercial and bicycle and scooter parking and storage, and also enabling like different functions to serve at different time periods. So for example, during peak hours, we can just use the curbside for like vehicle parking, and during the off-peak hours, we can use the curbside for like goods loading. So the setting of like flexed parking and the flexed zones along curbside would allow a much more flexible and efficient use for those curbside spaces. So the third one is that we can try to provide a real-time information on curbside space and availability. So this solution must be based on the first I mentioned, which is to build a very good database. So once this is done, we can try to develop some like smartphone application to notify drivers of the real-time curbside parking availability, and also we can try to notify truck drivers of the loading zone availability time based on our status transmitted by some occupancy sensors and information aggregated by the TMC. So I know that the University of Washington, they developed some like curbside sensors and occupancy sensors to try to combine those technologies. So the last one is that we can try to implement a demand-based dynamic pricing and congestion pricing. So we know that like for curbside serve with more functions, so the government could consider a much more flexible pricing strategy instead of like a fixed one. So multiple pricing policies already existed in other cities like San Francisco and New York. So a feasible one could be that we can try to target it at freight zones, which like commercial vehicles have to pay to have access to those zones, or we can try to implement a congestion pricing. So delivery companies would require to pay more if they have to like unload goods from during peak hours. So those shifting delivery hours would be very much applicable to those large-scale chain companies, as well as businesses with extended opening hours. So like in the future, like if we have more congestion issues, or if like the mobility options continues to change and to expand, we can even try to consider the dynamic pricing based on like hourly or even based on per minute basis. So I believe those strategies could be combined together but they definitely need more discussion. So we shall focus on how we can implement those and what's the specific feasibility of each one. So when we are doing evaluations of those specific implementations, I propose several like key performance measures and the criteria we can adopt to those. So for example, we can use the aspects of mobility, such as the improved vehicle level of service, also some accessibility criteria like the reduced use of disabled loading and parking zones, and also some safety criteria such as fewer curb access related collisions. So combining those criteria together, I believe that a better dynamic management of curbside would definitely help to deal with the congestion issues right now in Atlanta. Thank you.
So what questions does everyone have?
Hey, have you done any type of cost analysis or cost benefit analysis relative to what it would cost to do the survey of where all the curbsides, set up the system, manage it versus the benefit for reducing delay, safety, that kind of stuff? Or has anybody naturally done something like that you know of?
Like for myself, I didn't done any research specifically targeting a curbside, but I believe that if we really would love to like implement those strategies, we definitely need a very specific cost analysis of those. Yeah, those ones.
Is there any cities that have done a wide-ranging GIS database of their curbsides?
So I searched. I think that Washington D.C. they are developing their own inventory of all the existing curbside and also all the infrastructures along with those.
Yeah.
Has there been any analysis on the handling the data volume? Connected cars that create like 3 or 4 terabytes of data per day. How do you handle all of that data volume that's being generated?
Yeah, I think if we really would love to implement those, I think definitely we need a very large cloud base to deal with those sensor data and all those input flow data. So I guess we need to like work with some labs and some maybe school infrastructures to work on those things. Yeah.
Well, I have one. With the research that you did for, and then I guess with this as well, how, even with like Washington D.C., do they know how they're going to try to handle the urban canyon effect with like GPS, just for an individual's vehicle? They might put them on an adjacent street or like in the middle of a building. Like how are they proposing to combat that?
So for current research done in Washington D.C., I think they are focusing on building a database to gather all the information. But as the question you asked, like what may be the advantages of like building those database and what like potential use we can like get from them. I believe that one important one is the prediction. Like once we have those big data, we have those like minute-based or even second-based flow data into the database. We can do some prediction on which curbside might have like much more severe congestion issues on the next minute or on the next hours, so that we can output those messages to drivers, trucks, and all the like passengers, so that they can better manage their route and everything.
Well, great. Well, we really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the next 2 speakers together. First one, short and sweet, Dr. Hunter, most feared professor at Georgia Tech. And the other is Dr. Gwynn, who is a senior research engineer here at Georgia Tech. Dr. Gwynn's current research involves connected and autonomous vehicles, especially the aspects of driver behavior and changes in traffic characteristics during the transition of the vehicle fleet from a zero automation and connectivity state to a fully connected and autonomous fleet. So let me hand it over to Dr. Hunter first.
All right, thank you. I love coming to these meetings. I get to see friendly faces and former students. Again, I apologize. So when Dee contacted me about a month ago, or maybe a little less than that, I'm not
24 hours.
entirely sure, yeah. No, actually it was about 18 hours ago. He wanted to know, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at Georgia Tech. So I want to give you a quick highlight of some of the exciting things happening here, and then Gwen's going to talk about actual work. So in civil, ITS, we're doing all kinds of great things, right? And I think some folks here have been exposed to it. I'm doing a lot of connected vehicle work. We're really proud of the North Avenue corridor work that we've been doing with the city. That's been a great relationship. We have been looking at AV. We're looking at, so my notes are on the back of a business card. I'll bet you I can get 20 minutes out of that. Anybody want to? We've been looking at AV, been doing a lot of digital twin. How do I take data in real time? That's kind of a really up and coming thing. So we got all these great data streams coming in. What do I do with it, right? So in a way that it's never been there, right? This has always been the complaint. If you've been in the field for a while, I've been there a while, I'm getting enough gray hair, that we had a dearth of data. Now we're getting flooded with data, right? So it's really working through that, working through those issues. But we have a lot of other things going on. So we have folks looking at the scooter work. We've got a brand new traffic simulator. Full cab, right, and get this thing, and they're doing some tests of some different ITS technology. There's a bunch of things. I know there's others I'm not thinking about. What I really want to mention, though, is there's a lot of stuff going on now. And you can look across campus and start seeing a lot of great things, right? So there's the Smart Community Challenge. I know some folks in here have probably been involved in that. And that's actually run out of a different group that's run out of IPAD, which is one of our centers. And that's going out to local communities. And it's saying, hey, how can we help bring innovation and technology? I'm actually, one of your projects is one of those, right? So bringing technology into these local communities and trying to help them with that. We have, look, I'm going to look at my cheat sheet again. We've got something called the Living Lab, where we're trying to actually get an AV on campus. Now, I have learned as part of this, we are a state agency, and man, that comes with administrative challenges to try to do something like that. But we're getting an AV. We're also sponsoring. So Georgia Tech, something very rare. Well, sponsor, I'm going to be careful about that, has gone out and found some private folks to help sponsor. Actually, one public, Peachtree Corners, is helping out with that. I don't know if I can announce yet who's doing it. An airline that's big in Atlanta might be helping out, right? So something like that, right? So, and they're sponsoring research in these areas. So we're doing some AV, and it's so fantastic, right? How do you model it? How are they going to drive? How does a pedestrian or a person interact with the vehicles that's just moving around? So we've got groups out there looking at that. We talked about data. We have data centers now that are doing nothing but how do I handle all that big data? How do I analyze it? How do I store it efficiently? How do I get it back and forth, right? How am I going to move this around? I've got some, I love the robotics guys. You got to go meet some of the robotics guys, right? So they're looking at certainly AV development, right? So looking at AV development, they've built this cool racetrack where they're putting the race cars, essentially their AV vehicles, and they're working on the technology to do that. At the same time, they're also working about what do one of these things do when it goes off the road? Right? It's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to cut one off in a way that one of these things may go off the road. How does it recover? How does an AV recover in that sort of scenario? So they're digging into that. They got this thing called the Robotatorium. Am I saying that right? And they've built this lab. It's kind of like a space. You can think of it sort of like this, except it's all, white floors and all this kind of stuff, with the robots in there that anybody from around the world can drop their programs into it and see how to do the modeling and see how do these interact. How do I interact in an autonomous world? We've got folks in mechanical who are doing remote driving. This is a big part of AV, right? So an AV is not going to be able to do everything, at least not for some amount of time, right? So what happens when it gets confused? Hey, there's a moose in the road, or there's an accident. Well, there's entire businesses being built around this idea of somebody in some office building, maybe thousands of miles away, is going to remotely come into that vehicle, take over the sensors. A person is going to manage this thing through the system, right? Well, how is that actually going to work? If you hadn't heard that before, right? Man, I did an AV project. There's a lot of money going into that. There are people looking at that. Well, they're building the technology. In fact, there's a golf cart that goes around campus that they're actually doing that with. We've got folks, man, I got to be past my 2 minutes, right? We have folks in psychology who are doing ITS, right? What are they doing? Well, they're looking at how do you interact with your vehicle? How do I design a center console, right? How is this interaction going to happen? Can you be in some of these new emerging technologies. I've got a faculty member over there I talked to who basically refers to AVs as puke machines, right? That's a little funny, right? If I lost you, all right? I mean, but the idea that, you know, if your people, they're going to be making people sick because you're going to be in these things, you're going to be trying to read and do all those things, and it's going to have that motion. And how do I work that out? How do I make that work so I'm not actually causing my drivers to be rejecting what's going on here, right? So we've got, I'm going to keep going. So we've got machines that I can't read my own writing. I shouldn't have done that on a business card. Data analytics. Oh, we have an air taxi, right? Looking at the entire center. That's looking at how we're going to do air taxi, how we're going to manage, right, flying cars. I have the slightest idea, right? We've got folks in ECE who are looking at how we're going to do some of these optimizations now that I have all that data. And I was, to your point, I had to read one of their papers, and after about the 17th page of equations, I'm like, I'm a civil engineer, right? I can't do this, okay? I'm good. We're done. I trust you. What's the answer, right? But the point of all that is, this is so cool. There's so much emerging. There's so much innovative. And I've had, as part of actually some of the work I've been doing, some people, maybe not in this group, but in our group say, man, do we have a future, right? Are we going to get put out of business? And I just want to let you know, absolutely not. This group, you guys, are the future here, right? It is critical that you are part of this. I know Dr. Gwynn and I, we occasionally hear some crazy things, right? You have something invaluable. You have domain experience. You've actually worked in cabinets where a mouse has chewed through the wire, right? You understand that in computer science, they may replace their equipment every 2 years. In a field controller, you do not, right? Then it's got to work with something that's 15 years old as well as something that's 15 months old. We get how the transportation system works. That domain expertise is so critical to the success of this future system that our role is only going to get bigger. What you need to do, how you need to assert yourself, I just can't stress it enough, right? We are one of the linchpins in making this happen. It's going to be multidisciplinary, no question. But really, get out there and know what you're bringing to the table is critically important. Next up is Dr. Gwynn, who's going to talk about actual work, right? We're doing real things.
Got turned off. We go to sleep.
Yeah. I need one more person. You've got the key.
I don't see it on the screen yet. Ah, there we go. All right. Can you hear me? Or do I need the mic, or can you hear me anyway? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes. All right. Huh? You want the mic?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is one of the Georgia Smart projects that Mike was just talking about. So Georgia Smart is a partnership between Georgia Tech, Georgia Power, ARC, and a bunch of other partners in and around Georgia, where they have like a yearly challenge where communities are encouraged to apply with their proposals, and there's a cost sharing, and these projects are focused on smart communities, of course. And Gwinnett was one of the winners on the first batch, 2018. This project, the overall project, was about the development of the connected vehicle technology master plan, with the goal of setting the standard for application of connected vehicle technology for local governments. So the project team consisted of Gwinnett County, AECOM, Mark Sturt is very familiar with this, Georgia Tech, of course, and a bunch of stakeholders, including Gwinnett County's Transportation, Transit Fair, Police IT, and I won't go through all of them there. But the project identified a set of low-hanging fruits, or maybe not so low-hanging, but a bunch of applications that are likely to get the community engaged in connected vehicles. So one of these was the emergency vehicle preemption that we got involved, the Georgia Tech research focused on. So emergency vehicle preemption is not new. Means Brian has been doing it for city of Marietta. Means we have city of Atlanta has it, and is the earlier vehicle preemptions used to be the line of sight versions where you have to have the vehicle actually near an intersection for it to work. But by that time, it's already too late. When the vehicle is at the intersection, it is likely to get stuck behind a queue of other vehicles. So even if you turn the signal green at that point, you are still making the vehicle wait for a period of time. So this is somewhat mitigated by a forward-looking system where you turn the signal green in anticipation of the vehicle coming at that signal. Means you do it a while earlier. But there is still things that need to be optimized. Like how do you figure out when exactly to give it green so that the impact of the other approaches not getting a green, getting a red instead, and how does that impact the delay of the vehicles? You are concerned not only about the delay of the vehicle of the emergency vehicle, but also the other vehicles, right? You can't turn the entire corridor green for this one vehicle and everybody else sits there waiting. Anyway, so what we tried to do here was to make sure that we are building enough of a database to be able to do a before and after study. So we will look at what we have right now, and we come up with the algorithms that will help us optimize the preemption, the forward-looking preemption, and then we do an after study. So we tried to go get some data for this purpose. Obviously, this data was not there. There was AVLs, but that gave us a data point every 1 or 2 minutes, and that was clearly not enough. So we came up with our own data collection system, smartphones. We deployed a bunch of phones with the GPS recorder turned on them on 17 of the vehicles. We got the data for a couple of months. That was about several million data points right there. We fused this with the 10 hertz signals phase and time data from the Gwinnett County signals, about 750 signals out there. And we had a good amount of student engagement. The Georgia Smart program provided us with a Smart Community Student Corp and there was 3 other students from the civic data science team, which these students came from different universities here, so they were not Georgia Tech. The Smart Community Corp student was Georgia Tech, but the others were not. So they did the heavy lifting on all the data crunching, setting up the communication from Gwinnett County to Georgia Tech, and so on. So what did we do with the data? The data was obviously not clean, means not separating the noise and signal that we are talking about at our table a moment ago. So the data had a lot of points right near the fire station. There were a bunch of points where the response was, and these are not the points that we care about. We care about the points near the intersections, where at the approaches we are trying to figure out how much delay is occurring at an intersection. So we did some off-route filters. Then we followed it up with an intersection filter where we drew a box around the filter around the intersection and figured out which are the points within that box and focused on those points. Then we need to figure out which part of these traces are relate to the approach of the vehicle to the intersection versus when they're receding away. We are not necessarily concerned about it when it's going away from the intersection. So we focused on the points that are approaching the intersection, and we had to figure out which approach it was. Was it for the through moving lane? Was it for the left turn bay? So these made a difference. So we did some simple trigonometric magic there to figure out which ones, which turn they're taking. then we connect, use the timestamps of these points and the locations, boundaries of these points to figure out what is the signal phase that the vehicle got when it was approaching the intersection. What did we do with all these? So remember that this is still the before data set. So we looked at this and figured out which are the intersections that are seeing the most amount of delays for the emergency vehicles. Obviously, some of these are pretty simple to guess. We don't need data to tell you that. It's Pleasant Hill intersection, McGuinness Ferry Road. But there are some intersections like the Howell Ferry Road intersection or the North Berkeley Lake Road, which showed up, which came up pretty high on this list, and there are reasons for these. When this one is a simple example, like for the North Berkeley Lake Road intersection, where the fire station driveway is right next to the intersection. So as soon as the vehicle comes out of the fire station, it gets stuck at the signal. And you got to remember that at this Peachtree Industrial Boulevard corridor, which was where we were doing the study, this is optimized for moving the traffic on the major arterial, right? So whenever these vehicles are trying to cross the road, they are experiencing extended amount of delays. The column on the right, the percent red, that shows what percentage of the time near the intersection the vehicle spent in a certain phase. So 57% red for Pleasant Hill Road means that the vehicle spent 50% or 57% of the time within the bounds of the intersection in a red phase. So it saw red instead of green for that percentage of time. So moving on, we looked at also the queue lengths of the vehicle's experience. So how did we do that? We did a filter of the points to see when the speed of the vehicle dropped below 10 miles per hour, and the first time it drops to that speed within the bounds of the intersection, that's when we say that it has hit the end of the queue, and then it speeds up. Maybe it stops the second time. So from that we can, from these traces, we can figure out the length of the queue that is experienced by this vehicle. So we also organized the intersections by the length of queue. So we can focus on which intersections are experiencing the most of the delays, and then we can focus our efforts on mitigating those. Next steps, we academics always want a deeper analysis of the data, but we are need to identify the critical phases for the emergency vehicles for each of the intersection, and we have a second phase of this project where we are evaluating the forward-looking preemption feasibility, but also focusing on the minimization of the impact on the other traffic when we do the preemption. We're in the middle of doing some more before deployment data collection, and the post-deployment analysis will come next year after the deployment is done. That's all I have, and so you can contact me or Tom if you have more questions beyond what we can address here.
Anyone have any questions?
Yes?
What's your data set from what year to what year for Peachtree Industrial?
So I have data, we did a lot of data collection last summer, but that was summer, so I don't want the seasonality to affect it, so we are doing
from the bottleneck
some
analysis and the speed data, did you do that from a field data collection, or did you do that from a historic data collection?
So I haven't done an exact bottleneck analysis for all vehicles. It's very specific to the emergency vehicles.
Okay.
So we have the traces of the vehicles for over 2 months period, mostly considered for a month in summer of 2019, and we are getting 3 more months this year. So this still will be the before data. So we'll have the after data after the. Yes, Tom.
The GPS generally that the fire department has is a higher quality than what you're going to get in a phone. Did you have any issues with the accuracy of the phone GPS versus?
Well, okay, so there are two things going on there. You'll be amazed at how good the data from the smartphones come nowadays, and the chips are pretty good. But the data from Gwinnett County, means they literally told me that their system is on life support right now. Right? They're looking at, means they have already started the transitioning into a new system. But that I was getting a data point every 2 to 3 minutes. They were not logging it second by second. So they have the data more frequently, but it's not getting logged. So, and if you get a data point every 1 minute, it's hard to associate it with a particular intersection, and you don't know which one it's coming from. So that's where we got stuck. I'm like, okay, we'll do something quick and dirty. Get our data. Yes, Brian.
So, how did you differentiate between service trips and non-service trips?
So we got the logs from the fire department on where they're going. There is still some fuzziness there. I mean, it's not exactly. They will start to come back from one response, and then they'll get a call and they'll go off to another one. So it's difficult to separate those, but yeah, we would of course welcome some more data there if we can get the state of whether the emergency lights are on or not. Then it would be helpful.
Anybody else?
Winner.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve.
Could you tell me whether or not a modern smartphone knows what lane the phone is in?
No, we don't know.
You don't need it, but is it accurate enough to know?
No, it's not. Our GPS gives what, 10 meters accuracy.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not. But so yeah, unless you go to like differential GPS, we'll never. I mean, it's not the limitation of the phone. It's the limitation of any GPS device right now we use. Unless we go to military grade.
So this is all before information, because
Right.
most of us know that a project is underway coming through. And are there, and you're about to collect 3 more months, is what you're
Right.
stating, in a different season?
Yeah.
I live over here, so I can tell you when they're in service, because I can hear them from my house. So if you ever need someone, because they wake me up constantly when I'm not sleeping very heavy. But yeah, so are there any suggestions that's going to be made to kind of help with this project that's coming out as far as what's needed or necessary, or no, this is truly just before study information?
Yeah, we are trying to figure out the algorithms for how do you bring the predictive preemption into this? How long ago do you start the preemption process so as to not start, if you start it too early, you'll be holding a green there for too long and the other vehicles will suffer. Because most of this is crossing Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, right? So if you are holding the green for the crossroad, for the minor road, the major road flow will break. So you have to minimize that. So we are looking at that.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, our third and final speaker is Ryan Salome. He's a PhD student here at Tech in the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and with a focus in infrastructure systems engineering. He works on diverse research projects related to transportation asset management funded by GDOT, the NCHRP, and the University Transportation Centers. He joined Georgia Tech 2 years ago from Lebanon, and he currently serves as the president of the ITS Georgia Tech student chapter. Right? I don't know if this thing's even working. Billy, can we use yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drop it, Rick.
Oh. It's your laptop. Yeah, that's the
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for coming. We're very happy to have you here at Georgia Tech. I'm going to give you a very quick update about what's happening with ITSGT student chapter. So, I guess it's useless. So, I guess first we'll introduce to you the new executive board. So we have here Ariel, the secretary, and Susan. She's not here currently. Both of them are senior undergrad students, and that's what we're trying to focus on. So to target more undergrads, because most student transportation organizations are mainly focused on graduate students. So we're focusing this time more on undergrads to let them know more about transportation and ITS, and more specifically. So first thing, that we have a new logo for our organization. So we're welcome to have your feedback if you like it or not. Very cool. That's the first thing that we have done after we started. Next thing is we just launched our Facebook and Instagram pages. We'd like your support to follow us. So basically we'll be publishing news about our student organization and news about related to ITS, of course. And if any of you would like to share, would share with us some of the news that you'd like to share with Georgia Tech community, we'll be very happy to share that. Next week we'll be having a talk about something similar, about the connected vehicle system planning, with Alex Hoffelich, the Director of Traffic Engineering at the Gwinnett County. You're welcome to join, of course. And we're still welcoming presentations for this semester, basically on topics covering the education and advocacy topics stated by ITS America. So mainly smart cities, mobility on demand, smart infrastructure, and other topics. We're also planning to organize social events. So if any of your companies are interested in helping us to do that, we're very welcome. Also, we'll be having a transportation career fair on March 12th. So we do that in partnership with other student organizations. If your companies are interested to join that, we usually have 15 companies. Also reach out to us. We'll be sharing with you other information. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Winner, did you have something?
No, I was just going to close out.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's no questions.
Yeah, if there's no questions, Winner's gonna.
All
Winner, are
right.
you coming back up?
I'm just going to close out real quick. Again, membership dues. That's something I want y'all to be part of this organization and not have to pay the extra fees. Also, just keep in mind, put on your schedule, please, the ITS annual meeting in Jekyll Island. It's going to be a fun time. Trivia tomorrow night. So if you definitely want to be a part of networking and winning free food, and sometimes there's free beer, that's also part of it for any of you interested in that. Please come out. And with that, next month, again, our meeting is the 25th Wednesday at the Peachtree Curiosity Lab. And we've got some really great people who's been involved in that. Billy with 360 for sure has been involved with getting that, everything together. They've got some new stuff going on that you probably don't even know about. So please come check out what they have going on. It's going to be a great, great monthly meeting. Thank you guys, and be safe.